Adani was a striking young woman, known for her beauty, elegance, and charm. She was the daughter of Pastor Ayodele, a well-respected man in their community Yoruba land. Her father's church was always filled with worshippers, and people looked up to him for guidance and wisdom. However, despite the outward appearance of a perfect family, Adani's life was far from perfect. Growing up as a pastor's daughter, Adani was expected to be an embodiment of purity, grace, and faith. But deep inside, she felt trapped. While her father was the pillar of righteousness in the eyes of the world, Adani had always struggled with the pressures of living up to these expectations. She yearned for freedom, for the chance to make her own decisions without being constantly judged. Her beauty, too, had become a curse in some ways. People looked at her and admired her appearance, but no one really knew who she was beneath the surface. To the world, she was the perfect daughter of a perfect pastor, but in her heart, she felt lonely and misunderstood. Adani's struggles were not visible to most. While her father was respected and admired, she often found herself questioning the strict boundaries of faith that seemed to rule her life. She was expected to dress modestly, speak piously, and avoid the things that most young people enjoyed. However, Adani was no saint. Behind her father's back, she sometimes snuck out to parties, hung out with friends who did not share her father's values, and even flirted with boys who were far from the wholesome image her father had in mind. She felt as if she were living a double life. One in the public eye as the pastor's daughter and another in secret, where she could experience the freedom she longed for. But this secret life came with its own consequences. She felt guilty every time she broke one of her father's rules, but she could not bring herself to stop. It was as if she were rebelling against a life that wasn't her own, a life she hadn't chosen but had been handed because of her family's position in the community. Pastor Ayodele was a man who took pride in his reputation. He often reminded Adani of the responsibility that came with their name. "You are the daughter of a man of God, Adani. People are watching you. Your actions reflect on the church and on me," he would say. These words echoed in her mind every day. Adani loved her father, but the weight of his expectations was suffocating. She knew that whatever she did, good or bad, it would be seen by the community. She was not just a girl. She was a symbol of her father's ministry. There was no room for mistakes, no room for failure. As the days passed, Adani's frustration grew. She loved her father, but she felt as though she could never live up to the image of perfection he had for her. She began to resent the life that had been planned out for her, a life of restraint and holiness that felt foreign to her true self. One evening, Adani attended a social gathering at a wealthy friend's house. It was not the kind of event her father would approve of, but Adani was tired of feeling constrained. She dressed in a fashionable outfit, a striking dress that highlighted her beauty, and went to the event with the hope of finding some fun. It was there that she first met Oluwaseun, a man who would later change her life. Oluwaseun was not just any man. He was the son of one of the wealthiest families in Yoruba land. With his tall frame, confident stride, and captivating smile, he instantly caught Adani's attention. He was the epitome of success and luxury, someone who seemed so different from anyone she had ever met. Their conversation started casually, but there was an instant spark between them. Oluwaseun, intrigued by Adani's beauty and her intelligent responses, asked for her number. Adani, despite her reservations, agreed. They exchanged a few pleasantries, and she left the event feeling a sense of excitement that she had not felt in a long time. The next few days were a whirlwind for Adani. She could not stop thinking about Oluwaseun. It was not just his wealth that intrigued her, it was his calm confidence and the way he carried himself. He wasn't like the men she had grown up around, who always seemed either too religious or too ordinary. Oluwaseun was different. He was ambitious, cultured, and seemed to understand her in a way that no one else did. Adani started to wonder if this was the kind of man she had been waiting for. Maybe he could be the escape from her rigid life, the chance to live freely without being constantly judged. She could not help but feel drawn to him, even though she knew that getting involved with someone like him could complicate her already difficult life. As the days passed, Oluwaseun called Adani more often. Their conversations grew longer, and their bond deepened. He shared stories of his travels, his experiences, and his dreams for the future. Adani, on the other hand, found herself opening up about her own struggles, her inner conflict between her father's expectations and her own desires. What began as a casual acquaintance blossomed into a genuine friendship. Adani and Oluwaseun began spending more time together, talking about everything from their childhoods to their hopes and fears. Adani learned that Oluwaseun was not just a wealthy businessman, he was also kind-hearted, driven, and surprisingly humble for someone of his status. Their friendship grew stronger, and Adani found herself feeling more and more comfortable around him. She started to look forward to their meetings, knowing that they would have deep, meaningful conversations. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen and understood. Despite the growing connection between them, Adani still held back, unsure of where things could lead. She was still a pastor's daughter, and she couldn't forget the weight of her father's expectations. But something about Oluwaseun made her feel like there was more to life than the rules she had been following all her life. As Adani spent more time with Oluwaseun, her feelings for him began to deepen. At first, she tried to keep her emotions in check. She reminded herself that he came from a completely different world, one filled with wealth and luxury, while she was just a simple pastor's daughter. The gap between their lives seemed insurmountable, and she couldn't imagine how her father, who had such high expectations of her, would react if he ever found out. Still, every time she saw Oluwaseun, a part of her heart fluttered. He was everything she had never known she needed. Charming, caring, and completely unafraid to be himself. Unlike other men who had always looked at her with the expectation of purity and virtue, Oluwaseun saw her as more than just a pastor's daughter. He saw her as a woman with her own dreams and desires. It wasn't long before Adani realized that she was in love with him. But with that realization came a new wave of anxiety. What would happen if her father found out? What if the church found out? The very idea of their relationship becoming public seemed impossible to her. She had never rebelled in such a big way before, and this felt like a giant leap into the unknown. The first real test of their growing relationship came when Oluwaseun invited Adani to a high-profile event. It was a business gala for some of the most powerful people in Yoruba land, and Adani knew that attending would draw attention. Her friends, most of whom came from the same church community, would wonder why she was at such an event. They would gossip, and her father, oh, how he would react. Yet, despite her fear, Adani found herself saying yes. She wanted to experience life beyond the confines of her small world, and this seemed like an opportunity she could not pass up. The night of the event, she dressed in a stunning gown that made her feel beautiful in a way she had not felt in years. When she arrived at the venue, Oluwaseun was waiting for her, his smile radiant. As they mingled with other guests, Adani felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. She tried her best to keep her composure, but the whispers from the people around her made her feel uneasy. They all knew who she was, the daughter of the famous pastor, and their eyes seemed to be evaluating her every move. Oluwaseun noticed her discomfort and gently squeezed her hand, giving her a reassuring smile. "Ignore them," he whispered. "They don't know the real you. I do." His words brought her some comfort, and for the rest of the evening, she tried her best to enjoy herself. But deep down, she knew that this was the start of a life that would be difficult to hide from the world. As the weeks passed, Adani's relationship with Oluwaseun became more serious. She could not deny her feelings for him, and every time they were together, she felt a sense of peace that she had not experienced before. But the pressure of keeping their relationship a secret was starting to take its toll on her. The more she tried to hide it, the harder it became. One Sunday after church, her father sat her down for a conversation. Pastor Ayodele had always been strict, but today his tone was different. "Adani, we've been hearing rumors," he began. "People have been telling me that you will been seen with a wealthy man. Is this true?" Adani's heart sank. She could feel the weight of her father's gaze upon her. She had hoped to avoid this conversation for as long as possible, but now it was unavoidable. I have been spending time with someone, yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. She knew the disappointment in his eyes would be more painful than any words he could say. Pastor Ayodele's face hardened. "You know that our family's reputation is built on integrity. This man, does he share the same faith as we do? Does he follow the principles of the church? You must be careful, Adani. Your actions reflect not only on you but on the entire family." Adani felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. "I understand, Father, but I love him. I feel something real when I'm with him. Please, try to understand." Her father shook his head, disappointment evident in his expression. I cannot approve of this. If he is not walking the path of righteousness, then I cannot support this relationship. Adunni left the conversation feeling heartbroken. She had hoped for acceptance, but instead, she had received judgment. It was clear that her love for Oluseun was a problem that would not go away easily. In the days that followed, Adunni felt torn between her love for Oluseun and her loyalty to her father. She couldn't bear the thought of disappointing him, but at the same time, she couldn't ignore the way she felt about Oluseun. He had become a part of her life, and the connection they shared was undeniable. She called him one evening, her voice shaking. Oluseun, I don't know what to do. My father he doesn't approve of us. He says I can't be with you. Oluseun's voice was calm and understanding. Adunni, I don't want you to choose between me and your family. But I know what we have is real. I want to build a life with you, no matter what. Adunni's heart ached as she listened to his words. She knew that if she chose him, it would mean severing ties with the expectations of her family, her community, and everything she had ever known. But at the same time, she realized that true happiness came from following her heart, not from adhering to the rigid rules imposed by others. Adunni knew what she had to do. It wasn't going to be easy, but she had made up her mind. She had lived her entire life trying to please others, especially her father. But now, she needed to live for herself. The next morning, she sat down with Pastor Ayodele and told him that she had made her decision. She loved Oluseun, and she was going to pursue a future with him. Father, I respect you and everything you have taught me, she said, her voice steady despite the emotions inside. But I can't live my life pretending to be someone I'm not. I have to be true to myself. Pastor Ayodele was silent for a long time, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Adunni, I can force you to change your heart. But know that this is not the life I envisioned for you. I pray that you find the peace you seek, even if it is not the path I would have chosen. It was not the approval she had hoped for, but it was a step towards freedom. Adunni felt a weight lift off her shoulders, knowing that she was no longer living to meet the expectations of others. With her decision made, Adunni and Oluseun's relationship blossomed. The two of them worked together, supporting each other through life's challenges. Oluseun's wealth and status provided them with a comfortable life, but it was their shared love and understanding that made their bond truly special. Though Adunni's father never fully accepted their relationship, she knew that her happiness was worth the struggle. She had found someone who truly loved her, someone who accepted her for who she was, flaws and all. Together, they created a life that was full of love, laughter, and understanding. After making the difficult decision to follow her heart, Adunni and Oluseun began to build a life together that was filled with love, laughter, and understanding. Adunni felt a sense of freedom and peace that she had never known before. She no longer had to hide who she was or who she loved. For the first time, she could truly be herself without fear of judgment or disapproval. Despite the challenges they faced, their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Oluseun, with his calm demeanor and unwavering support, became her pillar. He understood the difficult position she was in, having to navigate the expectations of her family and community. But no matter what, he stood by her side, offering her a safe space to express herself and pursue her dreams. For Adunni, this was more than just a relationship, it was a partnership. She admired Oluseun's drive, intelligence, and ambition. He was not just the wealthiest man she had ever known, he was a man of principles, someone who valued love and integrity above all else. Together, they created a life that was about more than just material wealth. It was about building a foundation of trust and mutual respect. While their relationship grew, they were not immune to the difficulties that came with their different backgrounds. Adunni still faced criticism from her friends and church members who believed she had betrayed her values by being with someone like Oluseun. Some of her old friends no longer spoke to her, and others made hurtful remarks whenever they saw her. The whispers and stares followed her everywhere, but Adunni had learned not to let them affect her. One afternoon, Adunni confided in Oluseun. I feel like I'm losing everything we known, my old friends, my church family. I'm not sure if I can keep going like this. Oluseun took her hand in his voice gentle yet firm. Adunni, true love is not about pleasing everyone else. It's about choosing to stand by each other no matter the circumstances. I'm not going anywhere, and neither should you. His words were comforting, but they did not erase the pain she felt from losing the support of people she had known her whole life. Still, she realized that she was no longer living for the approval of others. She was living for herself, for the future she and Oluwaseun were building together. The couple's relationship grew even deeper. Oluwaseun, recognizing Aduni's inner strength and intelligence, encouraged her to pursue her own passions. He wanted her to see that she could make a difference in the world on her own terms. He was not just offering her wealth, he was offering her the freedom to follow her dreams. Aduni decided to go back to school to finish her education. She had always been interested in social work and helping others, but she had put those dreams on hold for years, believing that she was meant to follow in her father's footsteps. Now, with Oluwaseun's support, she realized that she could create a life for herself, one where she could make an impact and live authentically. Her journey was not without struggles, but it was one she walked with determination and grace. She began to volunteer at local organizations, using her education to help those who needed it the most. She found that her heart, which had once been torn between two worlds, was finally at peace. She was doing what she loved, surrounded by people who appreciated her for who she truly was. Oluwaseun, too, was thriving in his career. Together, they became a power couple in Yoruba society, not just for their wealth, but for the way they used their resources to give back to the community. They were known for their charitable contributions, their dedication to causes they believed in, and their love for each other. Their love continued to grow, but not without its challenges. The test of time often brought moments of doubt and uncertainty. Both Aduni and Oluwaseun had to navigate the pressures of their respective families, who still struggled to accept their relationship fully. Aduni's father, though he had softened over time, still could not bring himself to fully accept Oluwaseun. There were times when Aduni felt conflicted. She loved Oluwaseun more than anything, but the weight of her father's disappointment still hung heavily on her. Yet, she realized that her happiness could no longer depend on seeking validation from others, even from her father. She had to choose the path that was true to herself. One evening, as the couple sat together on the balcony of their home overlooking the city, Aduni shared her thoughts with Oluwaseun. "I sometimes feel like I'm not doing enough to make everyone happy. I'm torn between you and my family." Oluwaseun kissed her forehead gently. "Aduni, happiness comes from within. You can't live your life for others, even if they are the ones you love the most. We can change the past, but we can choose how to live today and tomorrow." His words gave her the strength she needed to move forward, knowing that their love was enough. Together, they had built a life that was fulfilling and full of purpose, and nothing could take that away. As years passed, Oluwaseun and Aduni's love story became one that inspired others. They had created a legacy of love, resilience, and giving back to the community. Their story was a testament to the fact that love, when nurtured and protected, could overcome the challenges of life, no matter how difficult they seemed. They continued to support each other in all their endeavors. Aduni's work in social advocacy flourished, and she became a leading voice for women's rights and education in Yoruba land. Oluwaseun, who had always been a successful businessman, expanded his empire, but he never lost sight of the things that mattered most: family, love, and community. Together, they built a foundation to support underprivileged children, helping them get an education and break the cycle of poverty. They also started a program for women in need, giving them the tools to become self-sufficient and create better futures for themselves and their families. Their relationship, once seen as a scandal, had now become a beacon of hope. People admired them for their ability to rise above judgment and stay true to their love and values. Aduni's father, too, had slowly come to realize the depth of her happiness. Though he still struggled with the choices she had made, he had come to accept that her path, though different from what he had envisioned, was a path of love and fulfillment. Aduni and Oluwaseun's love story had come full circle. They had weathered storms, faced family pressure, and navigated the complexities of life, but in the end, they were stronger than ever. They were not just a couple. They were partners in every sense of the word, working together to make the world a better place. On their wedding anniversary, the two of them sat on the porch of their beautiful home, reflecting on their journey. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the landscape. It was a moment of peace, of gratitude, and of love. "Can you believe how far we have come?" Aduni asked, resting her head on Oluwaseun's shoulder. Oluwaseun smiled, his eyes filled with affection. Yes, and I would not change a thing. We built this together, Adani. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure we continue building it. As the evening sky turned dark, they sat in silence, content in each other's presence, knowing that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, hand in hand. Even though Olusegun and Adani had created a life full of love and success, not everything came easily. Life, as they both knew, was never without its challenges. A sudden twist of fate would soon test the strength of their bond and everything they had worked for. It came in the form of a financial crisis that hit the business world, particularly affecting Olusegun's empire. The global market crashed, and many of his investments began to falter. Olusegun, who had always been confident in his ability to adapt and overcome obstacles, found himself struggling for the first time. The stress of it all weighed heavily on him, and it began to affect his relationship with Adani. He would come home late, tired and defeated, and their once vibrant evenings together became quiet and distant. Adani, ever the supportive partner, noticed the change. She could see how deeply he was struggling. For the first time, she saw him not as the man who always had the answers but as someone vulnerable, someone who needed her strength. She refused to let their challenges pull them apart. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, she sat him down on the couch. Olusegun, you are always been there for me. Now, I'm here for you. We are in this together. Whatever happens, we'll face it as one. Olusegun looked at her, his eyes filled with exhaustion. But what if we lose everything? What if I cannot fix this? Adani placed her hand on his. Then we'll rebuild, together. You are always been my rock, Olusegun. Let me be your rock now. Her words did not solve the financial crisis, but they gave him something more important, hope. With Adani by his side, Olusegun knew that he was not alone. Together, they would face whatever came next, and they would face it with strength, resilience, and love. As months passed, they worked tirelessly to rebuild. Olusegun leaned on Adani for emotional support, and together they made difficult decisions about their businesses, restructured their investments, and supported each other through the long hours of work. The financial crisis, while challenging, ultimately taught them the value of teamwork and sacrifice. Through it all, their love only grew stronger. Adani's commitment to helping others never wavered, and she continued her work in social advocacy. Olusegun, despite the setbacks, managed to steer his empire back on track. Slowly but surely, they regained their footing. What had started as a simple love story between a rich man and a woman from a religious family had now evolved into something even greater, a partnership based on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared vision for the future. They had faced adversity, but they had done so together. They had proven to themselves and to the world that love, when nurtured, could weather any storm. Years later, as they stood in front of their beautiful home, watching the sunset together, they could not help but reflect on how far they had come. They had both changed, grown, and evolved into better versions of themselves. They had weathered the storm of judgment, personal loss, financial hardship, and the pressures of society. But through it all, their love had remained constant. Olusegun, Adani said softly, I am so grateful for everything. For you, for us. Olusegun pulled her close. And I'm grateful for you, Adani. You have shown me what real strength looks like. You have been my anchor, my heart, my everything. With the sun setting behind them, they stood hand in hand, knowing that the future held endless possibilities. No matter what challenges came their way, they knew they would always have each other. As time went on, Adani and Olusegun's love story became a symbol of resilience, unity, and the power of love. They had faced the trials and tribulations of life with unwavering determination, and in the end, they proved that no matter where you come from or the challenges you face, love is the greatest force that can overcome anything. Their story was not just about two people falling in love. It was about growth, sacrifice, and choosing to build something meaningful together, no matter the obstacles. From the pressure of societal expectations to the financial crisis that tested their strength, Adani and Olusegun had built a life rooted in trust, respect, and unwavering support for one another. Through the highs and the lows, they learned the most important lesson of all, that love is not just about good times and happy moments, but about standing by each other when life gets hard. And that love, when nurtured and protected, can be the anchor that holds everything together. Adani, once caught between the expectations of her father and her own desires, had found her true path with Oluwaseun. She had learned that it was not about pleasing others but living authentically, following her heart, and building a life where she could thrive. Oluwaseun, too, had transformed. From a successful businessman to a man who knew that love and family came before wealth, he had become someone who valued integrity above all else. Together, they built not only a beautiful life for themselves but also a legacy of giving back to the community, making a lasting impact on the lives of those around them. Their love was not just for each other, it extended to the world they were helping to build, one person at a time. And as they stood together, looking at their future, they knew that whatever came next, whether challenges or triumphs, they would face it as one. Because in the end, it was their love that had brought them through everything. And that love, stronger than ever, would continue to guide them through the rest of their lives. The end. Thank you for watching this powerful love story. If you felt something, if it touched your ear, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional and inspiring stories like this one. And hey, tell us in the comments, would you fight for love like Adunni and Oluwaseun? See you in the next story, where love, hope, and destiny come alive. Bye.